Another test, in this league, it just keep coming. So now we go to Lambeau Field and play, tough place to play against a good defense, and be a big challenge for us, divisional game, all those things. So short week, and we understand the challenge up ahead of us. So take any questions you have.
Your statistics are pretty remarkable this year. I'm wondering, and even without Justin the other night, threw for almost 400 yards against a very good defense. Is this somewhat a product of being in the same system second year? Is just, or do you have a different explanation?
I would think it's a combination of factors. Never any one thing. I do think that the longer I play in a system with the same coaches, the same play caller, I would think it's always going to help be more consistent. I think you have to have good players around you. I think Kevin gives me a lot of opportunities too. When you have 45 attempts a game, it's different than, in Carolina, I think we had 18 attempts really. So, that's also always going to change your production. But really, whatever it takes to win. And I torment myself because I look at the production and I say it should be so much better. With some of the red zone stuff we've left out there and some of these interceptions that have been unlucky, you're just like, this should be so much better than what it is. So I appreciate you saying it's good, because I look at it and I'm like, gosh, it needs to be so much better. So that's kind of the way it'll always be, I guess.
You do a lot of leg press this week to help with the tush push.
Yeah. Honestly, it's, when you watch it around the league, I do think the Eagles have done it in a way that's at a different level. Certainly, it should be repeatable. You'd like to think that it can be done by any team at any time. But you'll watch around the league, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't outside of the Eagles. And it was, I think Fred Warner timed it up well, jumping over the ball. He kind of guessed that we were on a quick count, and he guessed right. And then we always go back and look at how can we be better at it, and we were doing that after this week. So it's I don't think it's going away until a rule changes of some kind. I don't know what would change, but it's not going away around the league. I think it's going to be there.
It seemed like you and TJ were really on the same page the other night. It's kind of been that way since he's gotten here, but has there been something that has kind of developed between you and him for understanding when he's doing certain things on choice routes and things like that?
Well, I think that there's a trust level with him. He showed right away that he has a good feel for some of those routes where he has to make a decision on the fly, that he'll make the right decision, that with his athleticism he'll create separation. And a lot of it is also Kevin, designing the plays and putting him in a position where the ball is likely going to go to him. As long as, I throw with accuracy and he does his job, the ball goes to him. So he's proved to be a reliable player for us over the last year and a half. And, I don't really see that changing much moving forward.
Kirk, it seemed like you had a number of throws on Monday night, just with you were able to throw guys open and show good anticipation in a lot of those spots. What is the key, I guess, to getting to the point where you can throw guys open to the degree that you have in some of those spots?
I do think when you do that, it's because you know where they're going. You've seen it before. The play at the end of the half that arguably won the game was the opposite of that. That wasn't a play we've repped a ton in that specific look and that specific route, and so I threw it with anticipation but didn't quite know how to lead him out of the break, which is why the ball was behind him and why it was potentially intercepted. So I find in my notes saying, man, I got to take him all the way to the hash mark, and when I went to throw that football, I had no feel for doing that. But there's so many other plays, going back to playing with a coach for multiple years, where you say, I know to take him to the hash mark. I know to take him to the numbers or to bring him flatter than more vertical. So the more you can play with anticipation, it helps with the pass rush, not getting home, your accuracy, all those things. But certainly it goes both ways. The receivers have to also be anticipating things too and separating, and it all plays a part.
Kirk, on the Manning cast, Peyton Manning said that he talked to you before the game, but
yeah.
also that you turned around and wanted to quiz him.
I did, yeah.
On cover zero, I think, was some of it. Like, what do you glean from something like that, and do you just take any opportunity you can to talk to someone like Peyton Manning about football? Yeah,
he reached out last week and said, hey, I'm going to be the shortest production call of your life, but can we talk? And I said, well, if you're calling me to take my time, it's not going to be the shortest production call of my life, because I'm going to then talk to you and ask questions. So he was kind enough to sit on the phone with me for a little while and answer some of my questions. We went and saw a few guys this past off season that are now retired that I used to play against or were in the league when I was younger, and he's another guy I'd like to go sit with and learn from up ahead. So it was a good conversation.
What do you extend from it?
No specific thing. I just think you talk about preparation, you talk about game planning, you talk about what made you successful in certain areas of quarterbacking, why one year might have been more productive than another, body work. There's really no end to the topics you could cover, which is why I think on a phone call preparing for a game it's harder to cover it, but in the off season you can cover a lot of topics.
Are you offended that Eli didn't reach out?
Not offended. He was my Pro Bowl coach last year and we won, so I was actually surprised Peyton reached out, being that they lost the game. I think he was pretty upset they lost. So and apparently they're coaching it again. It was a lot of work for them as coaches to put the game plan together and things. So would love to get there again and try to go 2-0 with Eli.
You mentioned play protection
on
Monday. There's obviously a combination of factors that go into that. But against a front like that, did you sense maybe the offensive line sort of maybe brought out the best in them?
Sure.
Did you sense any little extra edge from them?
Yeah. I think they knew the challenge that was in front of them, and they rose to the challenge. And it wasn't any one guy. I think it was all 5 guys doing their part, playing together. It's never going to be perfect, but they sure played well and answered the challenge.
You mentioned the play at the end of the half with Jordan. I think after the game you said, I don't know how he caught it.
Yeah.
When you watched that back, just kind of how do you digest that play as a whole?
I hate watching plays that go our way, but I felt like we were fortunate because I don't feel like we were good enough, if you will. And so I watch it and say, we got away with one. I don't even like celebrating. It's a weird dynamic where I'm like, we need to feel like we executed the play and earned it, and certainly Jordan did in the sense that he made a play. But from my standpoint and what I can control, I'm saying I got to be better. I got to have a better feel for where to lead him, and got away with one. You obviously have had a few that you haven't gotten away with where you kind of paid the price the other way, where the ball bounced the other way. So it always balances out, but there is some level of we got to be better, and we got away with one, and I don't love living like that for too long because I don't feel like it's sustainable. I feel like you have to ultimately earn it.
So how do you feel when a play that should have gone well, but something out of your control happens
Yeah.
to keep it from
Yeah.
Do you take any solace from that?
Yeah, I don't sleep too well. I kind of get tormented either way, I guess, which is why it's tough. But no, certainly there's a lot of plays where you say you got to sometimes shrug your shoulders and say, hey, my process was good. I know what I'm doing. I have a plan. It didn't go our way, but I feel like my plan, my process was where it needs to be. And you probably do, have a different perspective than maybe someone who doesn't realize all that you're processing.
Probably somewhere you say I'll do the exact same thing next time.
Yeah, there's a lot of those plays. I think like the last play of the Chargers game where you're like, man, everything I'm doing there, my process, my thought process, my strategy, where I'm putting the ball, it's like I'm doing what I want to be doing there. Just didn't get the result we wanted, and you still go back and say maybe how can I make it easier and da-da-da, but you're certainly aware of the ball's not always going to bounce your way, and it doesn't change the fact if your process was good, you should stick with it.
So you hate watching those good plays?
Yeah.
The more you watch them, can that help with the torment? The seeing.
I think you go over and you send a thank you note to Jordan Addison, and you say, hey, man, thanks for bailing me out. Thanks for helping our team there. But, every time we complete a pass, but the ball's high to TJ and it's getting hit in the ribs, or Justin's having to slow down for a ball that he could have run through and pulled away, I'm always going over to him and saying, hey, that ball's got to be more on the money. That ball got to be down. I got to protect you. And I think that self-critique is why I'm still standing here talking to you guys in year 12 at 35 years old. I also think it's why sometimes you feel like this game's a grind because you're never really just going out there and shrugging your shoulders and just, playing careless. You're playing with so much care that you're always evaluating and critiquing, and so that's kind of the balance I'm trying to find is I'll always be trying to find is how do you push yourself to be a better quarterback, which keeps you in this league and playing well, and then how do you still enjoy it and just kind of go have fun and go play. And, Justin helps with that because he's always telling, because he's more on the other side of the spectrum than me. We're kind of on different sides there. So sometimes opposites attract in this sense. And he locker mate, he kind of helps me see that there's another approach to it too, where you can just kind of go out there and have fun.
Did you know that was him in the post-game interview?
Yeah, he was basically in a Halloween costume with the hood and the sunglasses. But yeah, and if I didn't know, the grills kind of gave it away right away. So Yeah, no, but that's him. I mean, who he was there in that moment is kind of who he is all the time. And so, you know, they talk about when you watch The Last Dance that Michael Jordan was so good at being present. And that's Justin. You know, wherever he is in that moment is where he is. He's not thinking about anything else, you know, and I think it helps him be a really good football player to just be right there in the moment and go play and block everything else out. And so, you know, I think that's important. Yeah. No, I think for me, you know, when we win, there's honestly more like relief, and then when you lose, it's obviously, you know, the worst. And so you want to get to a place where it's not just relief, but it's like you're saying, genuinely happy. Yeah.
Kirk, to that point, I guess you play as well as you did on Monday night. You know what all the narratives have been about Monday night. Is there any enjoyment in that moment of, hey, everybody's watching, I played, the numbers were good, we win, all those things, or is all these things you're talking about make it hard to enjoy it at that level?
I got a couple answers to that question. So going back to like process, like we played the Chiefs on Monday night in 2017 and we lost on the last second field goal, and I walked off the field saying, that's as good as I've ever played. So like I'm just not going to buy into the narratives because they're just not, that's not true. That's not how I evaluate myself. Yes, we lost on the last second field goal, but like I've never played better. So narratives can be what they are, but I know better. And then there's also a little bit of when I got 100 text messages after the game from people I hadn't heard from in potentially years, I'm like, oh, there is a little bit more of a microscope on Monday night maybe than there is on Sunday at noon, that you sort of see the overreaction the other way too, where I'm saying just the same way that in 2017 that wasn't true, this isn't true either. You know, it's somewhere in the middle. And so let's kind of walk it back from that response, you know, all the texts I got. So I think it goes both ways.
Is it strange to go to Lambeau and not have them have a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Yeah, it's been like, 30 years, 35 years. And who knows what Jordan will become. You know, you just don't know. He's certainly got talent. There's a first-round pick for a reason. So you still are playing a potentially very good quarterback. But it is something you're used to, number 4, number 12, and now it's number 10. And you know, being an offensive guy, you're not really thinking too much about it. But at the same time, you understand the level of ball that they've had at the quarterback position, and that to beat them, you know, more often than not, you're going to have to match it, if you will.
Do you pay attention to the weather in there?
You're always paying attention. I think the key is just, hey, are we getting outside and practicing it? Are we wearing our longer cleats? You know, those kinds of things that you can prepare for. I think you're always aware of what you're walking into.
Kirk, with a guy like Brandon Powell and being a smaller statured receiver, is it impressive to you, kind of just the fearlessness he plays with? And
oh yeah, no, and he was a college running back and as a punt returner, and he was a college running back who really is a receiver, you know, and so it's been amazing his football journey and how he's carved out a career for himself. And watching him in training camp, the way he played, you could just see like this guy separates versus man coverage, and those guys are hard to find. And he's a playmaker, and he's pretty natural. And having been a college running back, he's going to be physical in the run game. He's going to understand what he has to do to help in other ways. So, you know, I texted him after the game and just said, like, the player you were on Monday night is kind of the player I see you being game in and game out. It's kind of what I expect from you because I think you do separate versus man, and I think you do make plays after the catch. So we're fortunate to have him.
You mentioned Justin being present. Like, is that impressive that he's able to stay so present when he's not playing, like that he's able to kind of be who he is?
Yeah, I think he's just being who he is. I think injury, no injury, you know, Pro Bowl, no Pro Bowl. I think he's going to be that way, and loves competing and is always very much in the moment.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.